Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. It's international break. It's England, Italy tomorrow. We're back. Dean, how you doing, mate?
Oh, good, mate. Yeah. I'm very excited about having club football back on the horizon. I mean, look, the international break hasn't actually been too bad. There's been a couple of good games. England's definitely not included in that. But yeah, England, Italy tomorrow is obviously a reasonably important one. Not the same Italy we lost to once upon a time, but still some sort of revenge mission for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. How are you, mate? I mean, you're in another hotel, but on a very different trip to your last one, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm doing a 100-mile walk over 4 days to raise money for my mate, who's a big FPLer. If you've read my book on FPL, he features quite a lot in it. A maverick manager. We've been chatting FPL as we've been walking, but unfortunately, he's got a brain tumor, which is stage 4. So it's really bad news, which we were gutted about 6 months ago. But he, as always, is being super positive, and his chemo and radio has gone well. And we're raising money to try and get a vaccine. I don't want to start on such a
No,
important
no,
note,
absolutely, mate. You need to.
but yeah, we're raising money to hopefully get a vaccine which he can use for it when the tumor comes back, and it is a when, not an if.
Yeah.
Where crazy technology, they use part of the tumor to as a vaccine in the vaccine, and then it will prolong his life. It won't cure him, but it means we might have
No way.
5 years, not 1 year.
That's
So
insane.
it's crazy, but it's 150 grand. It's only available in Germany and America at the moment. It's one step away from being approved on the NHS, but that's going to come too late for him. So we want to if something can make the difference, we need to raise the money. We've raised 130 grand already. So tomorrow, yeah, we're going to England versus Italy tomorrow, and he's going to be on the pitch at half time, which is amazing. And I'm going to be sat with all the England fans,
Amazing.
probably wearing this top with my
Oh, mate, who
zipped up.
cares? There's bigger things than football. And that's amazing, mate. I hope you do raise money for that. If anyone wants to super chat us tonight, forget about it. Just send the money
I'll put the
straight
link in
through
the
to
description.
there.
I'll put the
Yeah.
link in the chat in a minute.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we don't need this money tonight. Send it to G's, mate. 100%. Yeah, that's great, mate. How are the feet? A few people asking you.
Oh, mate, the feet. 30 miles on Saturday, 20 yesterday, 20 today, 20 tomorrow. So it's doable, but I'm shredded, mate. They're swollen, they're blistering. But we're all doing it, going like, Jesus, our poor mate's been having chemo and radio every day for the last 6 months. Of course we can do this. So it's awesome. It's great. It's fine. I'm happy to suffer for a few days. But yeah, it's been amazing just spending time together, like we forget, like doing 12-hour walks when you're chatting with your mates. Usually when you chat with your mates, you're on your phone or you're in a pub being distracted. We're just having 12 hours, 12 hours, 12 hours. So it's amazing just to chat without distractions.
That's unheard of, isn't it? That's totally unheard of.
Yeah.
Cameron's having a bit of a breakdown. He says, no super chats. Whack the link in the chat. Yeah, Cameron does normally give us a fiver or so. So, Cam, send that fiver Gianni's way because he definitely deserves it for
I'm
this
going to
walk.
put it in the chat now, Dean. And if anyone quotes the word Arsenal when they donate, one of the people that donates a £5 or multiples of £5, donate £10 to get 2 entries, they'll be in for a draw to win a signed Arsenal shirt that I'm going to give away. I've got one, so I'm going to give that away. Yeah, so if anyone fancies it, if you use that link, donate with the word Arsenal or Gianni, Arsenal, whatever, and I'll see it and I'll put you all in a draw and draw it later this week.
Oh, that's amazing. Lungani says, bring on the FPL pain already. I missed it. Yeah, different sort of pain coming up for G. His feet are killing him at the moment. His head will be hurting him by the end of the week when he's got to decide what his team's going to be. So we'll be going through our teams in a little bit for sure. We're going to do fresh off the press. We're going to do tips and chips. We have wildcard suggestions. We have questions. It's just like old school chasing green arrows today, isn't it, mate?
Love that. Well, yeah, we'll make sure we answer some questions. And I guess so far in the international break, there's been some nuggets of information. Like we'll get to it, I guess, in fresh off the press. But there's been players scoring goals. There's been players not scoring goals. There's been injuries. There's been key FPL potential replacements. We'll speak more about Robertson and Tsimikas shortly. And as always, there's chat of, should I wildcard? If I've already wildcarded, who should I be targeting? So we'll make today very much sort of about a watch list, either for those on a wildcard or not on a wildcard. Dean, I think I'm going to pull the trigger next week. I don't know what your loose wildcard plans are, but in game week 10, there's a nice little fixture swing for Aston Villa, Liverpool, Brighton. Spurs have still on a good run, but I've got Darwin, but I don't have Salah, so I don't have many Liverpool. I don't have any Aston Villa, and I've only got one Brighton. So that alone, to get the likes of Watkins and Salah in, I think I need to wildcard.
Yeah, you probably do. I'm just resisting. I mean, I'd be honest, I haven't really looked at my team in the last week. I've just taken a break from even looking at their names because they've been causing me a lot of pain. I don't want a wild card yet, if possible, but yeah, we'll see at the back end of the week and on Friday's show whether I actually do go through that. Luke's got a question, mate. He said, "Gee, in the Euros final, who did you support?"
So many would assume that, like, oh, I'm English, therefore, I want both teams to do well.
Yeah,
But regrettably, England's always been the enemy, and that's purely because I've grown up watching Italian football, supporting the same team as my dad. My dad's Italian, therefore, I hate England with a passion when it comes to football. Regrettably, sorry everyone, it'll offend a few, but they're rivals. They're an amazing team that have always been rivals. So. I cried when Italy beat England in that final, and I don't think I've ever cried with football, but I cried tears of
relief.
It was relief. Yeah.
Oh, mate, I ran out that stadium as fast as I could. Half time, though, of the Euros final, I was obviously at Wembley with my mates. It was like amazing. We all got tickets. I can't believe that we were all there that day together.
Oh, I didn't know you went to the final.
Yeah, I was at the final. And honestly, like Luke Shaw scored, and we fell over, I reckon, 3 or 4 rows of chairs. Like we would just all went tumbling on top of each other. It was a great feeling throughout the first half. Half time was one of my favorite ever football experiences of being in a football concourse.
Okay.
That I know what it feels like to win a major championship because we were acting like we had. So it turned out that was a bit of a problem because we hadn't actually done the job at that point and we ended up losing. But yeah, I ran out of that stadium as soon as Saka missed to make sure I could get a train home. But yeah, Adam says, good to have football back. Shame I have to wait till Monday to see Fulham get smashed. Yeah, Fulham do play next Monday night. I'm not going. I've taken the decision.
Are you not?
Tickets went on sale, and I assumed I'd be going to Tottenham away this season, and it was shifted to the Monday, and I was like, do I want to go to North London, get home after midnight, and watch Fulham lose 2 or 3-0? Not really. It was a game. My kid, like Dylan, obviously started coming to the games with me, and Tottenham was one of the stadiums he really wanted to go to because obviously it's a cool stadium and stuff. And so he was really excited about it. So when he was moved, it was pretty disappointing. And yeah, so Adam, I won't be at that game, but obviously it is on Sky, so that helps me make my decision, and it means I can still do Chasing Green Arrows, to be honest.
Yeah, oh, that'd be good. Yeah, we might have to do a slightly earlier than usual Monday. So keep
it might be a bit earlier. Yeah,
Chasing Green Arrows on Twitter because they always tweet out when we're going to do it with loads of notice. Also, if you subscribe with the notification bell, as soon as I think the YouTube show is scheduled, which is often like 12 hours before we go live, I think that's when you get the notification. So again, more reason to subscribe with the notification bell.
Yep, absolutely. Right, should we crack on?
Let's crack on with should we go straight into our fresh off the press, shall we?
Yeah, we might as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go on too long in this section, but I'm going to. River says you need some pictures on the wall, Dean. Yeah, so this isn't actually. This was my kid's bedrooms. He barely uses it, so I'm slowly taking it over. River, I know you haven't really been here much recently, but yeah, I'm slowly shifting all the stuff out. He ends up in our bed every night. He doesn't even bother going to sleep in here at the start of the night anymore. He always plays in his brother's bedroom. So I was like, you know what? I'm claiming this space back. I used this in lockdown when you were a proper baby. I'll get back. So there will be some stuff coming. I've stuck a couple of things over. There's a signed Fulham ball from 1988-89. Yeah, and there's it's funny. I gave the kids. So we're going through my mum's loft, and they found my medals from when I was a kid. So there's the under-16 cup winners, 9, and there's just a generic medal for like turning up from like 1996 or something. So there's a couple of medals on there as well. You're right. I need something across here on this sidewall. Man cave, not quite, River. One day we'll have the proper man cave. Need to earn a few more quid off this show if possible. But anyway, that's for another day. The 2 performances that really stood out to me from an FPL perspective so far are Bruno Fernandes and Haaland. 2 players that are widely owned and both put in performances that we might be wanting to take pretty seriously. So let's start with Bruno. Portugal qualified for the Euros. They won 3-2, and Bruno pulled the strings. It was a brilliant performance from him. Now, it actually was a nice reminder, to be honest, of how good Bruno Fernandes is. And he often does do this for Portugal. This is the difference. When you're playing with players like Rafa Leao, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Gonzalo Ramos, who haven't got a crisis going on in their heads or in the environment around them, this is the version of Bruno Fernandes that we can still get. I think he got 2 assists officially. He put in an all-round good performance. Could have had more, could have had a goal. And yeah, it was really interesting. Have a look at the highlights if you want clarification that Bruno did produce a good performance. But for anyone that was thinking, I don't want Bruno anymore, maybe think twice, because he's going to be coming back from this international break with a bit of a kick in his step, and they've obviously qualified, so be happy about that. And he'll also be like, yeah, I'm a good player. You all have to pull your fingers out right now because we are Man United. And yeah, Rashford, Højlund, Martial, Anthony, whoever he's up there with, creating for, those guys have to switch on. I'm not really going to blame Højlund. I think Højlund's done well since he come in. But those other 3 absolutely need to step it up.
Everyone's been talking about in the community, do you sell Bruno and Rashford? And there's so many that had to double up. In fact, I think big man Baka might have to double up. We'll ask him on Wednesday, but I completely understand why Matt, like those looking in, are going, you got to sell your Man United midfielders. Hell, like I've said it loads. But with Rashford, it's a no-brainer. With Bruno, and I have said this a lot, there has been... He's been one of United's 3 best players this season. And he is mostly. And the fact he's now scoring goals again for Portugal. And again, I don't know where he played, Dean, against Slovakia, but when I watched him last time for Portugal in the last international break, which wasn't long ago, he drifted right quite a lot.
He did drift right a lot, yeah.
But he was probably sort of central right again, which again is a channel at United without Anthony, although he could be back. They've really missed. So when he plays in one of those, let's say he plays in the front 3 on the right, he's higher up the pitch. So, yes, he might be back playing as an advanced number 8, or he could be on the right, where he's been playing for Portugal and been doing really well. So, Sheffield United is the best fixture you can have on paper. Sure, you'd rather have it at home, although I'm not sure Man United would rather have it at home because there's been some boos around Old Trafford. And if they had lost that game to Brentford, like at half-time against Brentford, they could have been booed off the pitch. So, actually, going away from home for a team like United at the minute isn't a bad thing. And Sheffield United, I think they're the worst defence in the league.
Oh, mate, they are the worst team in the league at the moment. I think long term that might still turn out to be Luton, but at this stage, Burnley and Sheffield United have started worse. I was obviously at Sheffield United's last game when Fulham played against them, and Fulham did not play well and still managed to beat Sheffield United 3-1. At the moment, obviously, Sheffield United had Chris Basham, and he's now injured. He's had surgery, so he's not going to be seen. And they've got issues throughout the team too in terms of injuries. John Egan not available at the moment, so they're really having to call on resources here to back up their defense, and their defense just isn't good enough, to be honest. And Wes Foderingham in goal isn't all that either. Look, it's an 8 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday night, so the place is going to be absolutely jumping, Bramall Lane. So it's going to be a hell of an atmosphere. I'm just going to check that is right. I'm pretty sure that it is a Saturday night 8 o'clock game. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Saturday night at 8. So this is going to be great. It's a Saturday night. We've got Chelsea v Arsenal at 5:30, and then straight after Sheffield United against Man United. So we've got a really exciting return to action, especially as earlier on in the day. The first game is the Merseyside derby, Liverpool-Everton. So brilliant day of football coming up. But Sheffield United, they'll be very emotive, but they're not that good. There's not much they can do. If Man United can actually click, if they can keep their heads and, play through the noise, they should see them off quite easily here. And Bruno, as I say, if you can find these little spots, like you say, perhaps he can drift central to right. That is where he's going to have a lot of joy.
Yeah, I'm thinking United this week. I like Bruno if you've got him. I don't know if you go and buy him, but if you've got him, you definitely hold. And maybe you buy if you're on, say, a wild card game week 10 or 11 and you want a short-term punt, I'd go and buy Bruno if I could. But I think Højlund as well is that United attack against Sheffield United could have fun. So yeah, one to watch out for. Guys, do hit the like button. There's 200 of you watching, which is amazing. We haven't streamed for a week, so it's lovely to be back. We're back to full-time FPL mode, so there'll be Wednesday and Friday streams this week as well. But hit the like button if you fancy it. It helps in the algorithm. And I don't really understand how it works, but you hit the like button, more people see us, which is amazing.
Basically,
we want to spread it.
Haaland, just to touch on him, I'm not going to claim I watched the entirety of Norway's match against Cyprus because I didn't, but If you see Haaland's performance in the short clips that you can see on, you just need to watch the YouTube Viaplay clips, to be honest. Like, Haaland was like he was angry. He was like a man on a mission. And his first goal, he hits it so hard, his leg, it almost like propels around. Like he swings it back and he smashes it into the roof of the net. And his leg almost comes back around. He's hit it so hard. Like, Haaland looked angry with that finish. And then he gets his second with like one of his trademark big headers at the post that loops back in across goal and into the other corner. And I was like, oh, he's really been waiting for that. He needs to prove to people right now that this is not a drought he's in. It's just a few games where he hasn't had service. He will not be accepting that he's in a drought. He'll be saying, the chances are not there for me. The reason I'm not having any shots on goal across the entirety of a match is because I cannot get the ball in the areas I need the ball in. And that is the job of the people around me to get in there. Brighton at home this weekend, a massive fixture for Man City. That's a team that are striving to basically be them in terms of the way that they play football. De Zerbi, one of the managers that will be in the reckoning to take over from Pep Guardiola, to be honest, whenever he ends up leaving.
Good fit.
But Haaland, he needs a goal, and Brighton better watch out.
I think it was Torben in the chat a minute ago said, and this is accurate. I have checked. Torben said he heard that Everton has a higher XG than City, and I'm pretty sure I've seen the same thing. Also, the expected goals conceded for Everton this season, they're also in the top half. They're also in the top 10. So Everton, actually, whilst the points don't necessarily suggest it, and maybe some of the performances or the scorelines have been off, but the performances for Everton this season, they've actually been really unlucky. They should be flying. Like, their defence has been solid. Their attack has been not like a Sean Dyche attack. Their attack has been producing big chance after big chance after big chance. They haven't really been sticking the ball in the back of the net. But I see Liverpool-Everton in that early kickoff. And I know there'll be many that go and captain Mo Salah this week. Liverpool historically don't do well in the early kickoff because they've got a few, I don't know what it is. It's probably just a coincidence. But they are also often have been relying on a few South American players. Now, Fabinho sure isn't there, but Alisson is, Darwin is, Diaz is. And when these South American players play in the international break and Liverpool have the early kickoff, which seems to always be the case, and Klopp keeps complaining about it, they don't tend to perform well. It was only a couple of weeks ago at Wolves. That first half against Wolves was dreadful. Now, sure, they came back and won the game, but I don't think Liverpool-Everton is a gimme. I expect Liverpool to win, but I don't think it will be a rout. And therefore, even if I own Salah, I wouldn't be captaining him this week.
I do own Salah, and I will not be captaining him this week. I'm way too scared of that early kickoff, and I'm too scared about going up against Haaland again because, look, I think I've taken the armband off Haaland 3 times this season to go to either Son or Salah, and it just hasn't paid off any of the times. And I've just been dreading the Haaland game, waiting to see what he gets. And this is a game that I don't want to be in that situation from. Like, I'm happy enough to have Salah in my team. I don't feel like this is a week where I need Salah to be my captain. I feel like it's too risky, especially this early in the season. Like, I just want his points that stand alone. And then if Haaland can bag a couple against Brighton, then happy days, even if everybody else has got him as captain as well. I'm going to actually be really cautious coming up about taking the armband off Haaland at all. I know you could look at his fixtures and be like, well, it's not that great a run of games. He's got Brighton, he's got Man United, he's got Bournemouth, he's got Chelsea, he's got Liverpool, he's got Tottenham. Doesn't put me off at all. And obviously, I've got to have to weigh up if one of the others does have a very easy game. I haven't actually compared yet, but there's a decision to be made, sure. But I will be harsher than ever about taking the captain's armband away from Haaland because when he does go through a spell like this, it's not something that's going to last for too long, and it might mean that there's a streak coming.
Yeah, and that Brighton defense, well, we all love Brighton. They're many people's second favourite team, but Brighton do not keep clean sheets. Brighton can see chances galore, and especially when they're on the road. Like, that game has goals for me. So, yeah, I think I don't know if I'm going to go Haaland or Son this week, because I also like Son versus Fulham. We'll talk more about captaincy.
Fixture, yeah, it's a good fixture.
I think we've got a captaincy matrix later, so stay tuned for that. We'll go through the next few game weeks.
Yeah.
Because Dean, I do want your take on Son versus Fulham too, but there's a
Yeah.
bit of a concern as always with Son. He's getting 70, 80 minutes, but we'll save that chat. Shall we move on actually? Oh, I think we got it now. Should we move on to tips and chips? So I think
Yeah,
that's
let's do it.
probably enough fresh off the press, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, but one question for you, Dean. Tsimikas, I don't know, you watch more international football than I do. I just watch Italy. Greece, Tsimikas, he's playing well. I think he got the assist the other night. I think he's 4.4, 4.5. If Robbo's out for a while, Tsimikas as an FPL option, we like very much, don't we?
Yeah, we definitely have to consider this one. Actually, it's not one I would typically be recommending, but I think, yeah, as experiments go for your team, this is probably one that you can risk going towards. I mean, Tsimikas has done pretty well. I feel there'll be some pressure on him to perform, especially in a game like that against Everton. But at that price, that's what makes it so appealing. To buy your way into that Liverpool defence, a team that is like looking good anyway. I know not always defensively solid, but in terms of like their output's going to be strong, means that Tsimikas has got assist potential as well. I think at that price, yeah, it's very hard to overlook, especially if you're on a wild card.
Yeah. Because we don't like using our precious transfers on budget defenders, but
No,
on
exactly.
a wild card, it's a great, like, for me, I'm thinking game week 10. I just need to know how long Robbo's going to be out for, and I guess we will have that Klopp press conference, and he's going to be asked on it because Robbo's a key cog in that machine. So if it's 4 weeks plus, then Tsimikas is on my radar for sure, and probably in my team.
Yeah, absolutely. Greece are playing tonight, and they're playing actually in 20 minutes against Holland. And
big game.
Claire's just said Tsimikas playing much further forward tonight for Greece, and he is actually listed in the team lineups as a left-sided attacker. So he's playing. Looks like he's playing in a front three. Now I don't know if that's how Greece are actually going to play against the Netherlands tonight, because Netherlands, this is actually a pretty important game for them.
They kind of need a win, don't they, Netherlands? Because aren't they? They're not top of the group,
need a win.
are they?
Yeah. So either way, it's a good battle, that game, because it's Tsimikas and Dumfries down that line, and Xavi Simons will be over there as well. So it is worth watching that game after we've streamed. So don't go anywhere until press pause or something. Don't go and leave us. Don't go.
You know, I love an average position map. I'm just checking when they played Ireland a couple of games ago, in which he got the assist.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
It looks like they play a back three, so the 3 centre backs, and then they have 2. It looked like it was 2 wing backs, and he was the left wing back.
The wing back. Yeah, so that makes much more sense. They've got it listed as a 4-3-3 here, so it doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, if you ever want to see a heat map, guys, or an average position map, then especially for international football, you can see there Tsimikas is number 21. But yeah, Sofa score, like this free, very quick. I always find that really useful. Like as Dean was talking about him, within seconds, I was able to just check out that average position map, which is great. There we go. So let's move on. We have tips and chips coming up next. There we go. Love that graphic. And this graphic too. This graphic was taken from a show I did on my channel about a week ago, because pretty much, Dean, I wanted to do a show on wildcards, and do I go in game week 9 or 10 or not at all? And the wildcard is always such a big sort of chatting point. And maybe on Chasing Green Arrows next week, we'll show you a wildcard draft, because I think many will go game week 10 over game week 9. But when you're building your wildcard team, the big question is from the 4 players we can see on screen, do you go with 3 of them or 4 of them? And if you go with 4, you've got to make some big sacrifices. But the reason why I like all 4 is there's a good spread with captaincy, as we can see here. Like for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 game weeks, I've highlighted, I think Salah has the best fixture twice, or is the best candidate twice. Saka is twice. Haaland is 3 times, and Son is once. Now, sure, you could definitely survive on 3 of those, and you know, Son I've only highlighted once, for example. But captaincy is such a massive part of this game. If you have the best captain every week, you increase your chances of big hauls. And I genuinely think by having these 4 guys, you're giving yourself that chance. Now, A name I haven't put in this grid is Ollie Watkins. Again, someone I think most managers, including myself, will want on a wild card. Now, he's had a price rise to 8.2. So again, it's almost like it's not 5 premiums, because I don't think we can call Saka and Watkins premiums necessarily. That, that in the 8 million bracket, they're not in the double figures bracket, but they're a lot of money. So this is why I want Salah, I guess, if we talk straight off game week 10. Salah is captainable against Forest, against Luton. I know I've not highlighted him in yellow, but in 10 and 11. And then I think he's the best candidate in 14 and 15. So Salah, for me, is needed in game week 10. And maybe not in game week 9 against Everton, but in game week 10 against Forest. What do you reckon, dude?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've got 3 of those assets in my team. As I just said, like, my temptation at the moment is to just stick with Haaland through the duration of the run, because I just feel safer after jumping off of him a couple of times recently and not getting the points I wanted out of it. I'm worried about missing the boat when Haaland does hit points. Like someone mentioned a minute ago, Haaland incoming hat trick against Man United. Like, here we go. Like, that is the sort of thing he could do. And like, if you stick with Haaland throughout the duration of all those matches, it feels safer to me than jumping around captain to captain and missing the points as you go along. Like, I've been caught out by it like many times before. And I just feel like if this is my hunch, I've got to stick to it, because I had a hunch on Watkins that I went against and I missed all his points. I had a hunch at the start of the season about Jared Bowen, and I wish I'd stuck to that because I've missed all his points. And so after, leaving Haaland recently, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. But you're flagging up some good fixtures there, obviously, and that Salah doubleheader, Fulham, Sheffield United, is an obvious place to be looking.
Yeah. River says, nice graphic. We've got Adam that says, no KDB, no Haaland party. It's a fair point. We'll perhaps discuss that in a future show about Haaland with and without KDB. But whilst Haaland's had a couple of blanks, let's not forget the quality there. And look, whilst I've only put Haaland in against Bournemouth game week 11 in terms of highlighted, he's still very captainable in pretty much most those weeks. Like, I don't think necessarily game week 14 Spurs and game week 13 Liverpool are great fixtures, but I expect him to score goals. Man United away, for example, in game week 10, that Manchester derby is going to have loads of goals, I think. So there's good options. What about Saka, Dean? Because Saka's been overlooked by a few because of the injury. He was sold by loads, but also Arsenal had a little bit of a tough run of fixtures. If we look at these fixtures from game week 10, forget captaincy for a minute, there's an argument to suggest we should have double Arsenal attack. Like, they're really good fixtures.
Yeah, I think it's one reason I will have to consider a wild card, is because I haven't currently got any Arsenal assets.
Yeah.
And you look at those fixtures and you consider that Arsenal, along with Tottenham, are the only reliable and consistent teams at this stage. And if that's going to continue, if that is a theme of the season, then I'm about to be caught out, like, big time. So yeah, I've got rid of Saka. I haven't got Martinelli at the moment. Like, do I need to consider Gabby Jesus? Is Saliba an option? There's all these potential issues, and Arsenal are a very strange team in the sense that they've had to eke out some narrow wins, but they've also put on a couple of really good displays. And I think that they are trustworthy, along with Tottenham, for being consistent is the best way to put it. Is Saka consistent enough? I don't know. I'm slightly put off Saka at the moment. The penalty thing is really bothering me. Obviously, that was one of the reasons I got rid of him a few weeks back, because the handing around the ball for a penalty like it's past the parcel, and it's like anyone can have a go, and I don't like it. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, he's far too generous. He's far too generous with those pens. I don't want to see Havertz taking a pen when you're 3-0 up against Bournemouth. Same with Odegaard. Let's do Son, because we haven't really touched on Son much. Son game week 9, not in the graphic here. Son game week 9 versus Fulham. Spurs are at home. Haaland's at home again. I always like captaining a home player where possible, and you'll see most of those highlighted are for home players. Sure, Salah is at home to Everton, but I think that game's tighter than we think. Haaland's at home to Brighton. Brighton are a team that can surprise anyone. Like, I think they're going to concede, and definitely big chances, but they'll score too. Son has the fixture for me, which is the banker home win against Fulham. How are Fulham playing defensively at the moment? And Son, I think he pulled out of international duty. Am I right in thinking, or did he get a rest for South Korea? I know because he's been playing a lot of 70-minute games, so he's clearly holding an injury. Would you be nervous about that when you captain someone? We ideally want the 90-minute appeal, but Fulham is a good fixture at the moment, isn't it?
I mean, it's definitely a good fixture. We're not in a good place at all at the moment in terms of confidence or form. We're conceding pretty much every single game. I mean, we had a couple of clean sheets, but it was Crystal Palace and Luton. Like, you really couldn't read too much into those games because neither team offered any threat, and that's not obviously going to be the case when you've got Maddison and Son coming up against you. So, yeah, I have Son, I have Maddison. I'm not going to captain them,
Okay,
but I definitely think that if you're contemplating going against Haaland, then that's the place to go. We will not keep a clean sheet here. Unless like Bern Leno, he is capable of having absolute worldy games. He's probably our player of the season so far, to be honest. But this is going to be one of the nights of his life by the way that we're playing at the moment. I know, like, Marco Silva's had now a week and a half to keep a lot of the players together and try and get them back together and refocused and stuff, but it's hard to see Son not getting on the score sheet.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We've still not seen a Spurs penalty this season, so we can't guarantee Son is on pens either. We think he is, but a lot of the big teams by now, you know, with 9 game weeks in, have had a penalty, not Spurs yet. I saw in the chat, you guys are always so knowledgeable. Like Claire, straight away, Son was an unused sub the other day. That's perfect, Claire. Thank you for updating us there. That is what we want to see, though, because he has been playing clearly with an injury. Like, I don't believe Postecoglou wants to bring his talisman off at 70 minutes. But when we look at the Son minutes in recent weeks, and I did look this up the other day, he really isn't anywhere near a 90-minute man. And when we say 90 minutes, we're actually talking more like 95 to 100 minutes nowadays, right? So if he's coming off at 80, he's not missing 10, he's missing 15 to 20, and he's coming off before 80. So in the last few games, 75, 68, 78, 79, 71. Like, that's the last 5 games in the Premier League. He's not played 9. Yet Maddison, for loads of those, will be playing 95 to 100 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? They're obviously having to be careful with him. If you think back to last season when Son was a shadow of his old self, and we found out he obviously had this injury problem. I mean, there's obviously something that they're being careful to monitor at the moment. And the thing is, if Son did pick up an injury, Tottenham is stuck until January because there's not the same goal threat in Richarlison that you're getting off Son at the moment. And to be honest, Tottenham are quite happy for Son to lead the line all season if he can stay fit, so they don't have to sign a striker until the summer rather than January. So it's just like incomprehensible, really, that they could lose Son for any stage of the season. So even if he gets a 70 against Fulham, he's probably going to score. Like, again, there's a reason I've decided not to buy a ticket for this game because I have very little confidence in us getting a result. And yeah, Tottenham have the ability to pull us apart, to be honest.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't realize, I completely forgot, Dean. We've got coming up in today's show, Ali's wildcard.
Nice.
Ali hasn't been overly engaged with watching FPL content this season. He said he's been so busy, so we've not seen him in the chat much on this channel. But if you are just joining, or haven't watched us for that long, Ali's won FPL last year. And we have known him as one of our chasers in the chat, who was commenting and engaging in our chat early on last season. And we saw this guy was doing well. And then we saw he was like 8th in the world. And we were like, oh my God, he's in our mini league. And this guy watches all of our YouTube shows. Yeah. So as a friend of the show, we feel like not only can we show his wild card, but if we want to criticize it with construction, which I know he would value, then we'll do that. So I think we're going to be full of praise for his wild card, but there might be 1 or 2 picks we go, oh, I'm not so sure about that one. So we'll have a look at that in just a sec. Before we do, though, guys, there's loads of you watching, nearly 300 of you. If you fancy hitting that like button, now, loads of you are subscribed. I know you are, because we see the same names quite often. But I know there'll be loads of you out there as well that are watching for the first time that perhaps haven't subscribed, or you've watched a couple of times. Please do hit that button if you like what we're doing around here. We do streams on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And if you're into your cricket, final plug from me, we've got a sister channel called Chasing the Target. So you can just search that on YouTube, Chasing the Target. And the guys are working so hard at the ICC Cricket World Cup in India,
Yeah.
getting loads of like fan reaction and stuff. So it's pretty cool, isn't it, Dean? Like what they're doing, because it's slightly different to what we do on Chasing Green Arrows, which is obviously these remote only like
calls. They're out and about. They're amongst
out and about talking to fans, aren't they?
They're among it. Yeah. I was checking out some of the content actually during the break to see what they've been up to. But yeah, it's definitely worth a follow if you like cricket. I mean, my cricket knowledge is poor, so I should probably watch more of it so I actually understand it. But yeah, absolutely give those guys a follow because it's a great part of the network we've got here.
Good stuff. There we go. Let's move on. We've done our little tips and chips section, but in fact, I think perhaps even as part of tips and chips, no, let's move on to our wild cards. So let's have a look first. We've got a draft I put together for 9-10. We've also got Ali's draft. So first we can do whatever comes on screen. Let's have a look. Here we go. Yeah, we got Ali's wild card, FPL Guns. And someone in the chat said, quite rightly, he's 3 million at the moment, and he is. Ali is having a bad start, but that doesn't bother him or phase him. I think I'd be getting quite stressed over that. He's like, man, it is what it is. I know I've got to go rogue. So he has pulled the trigger on a game week 9 wild card. Firstly, I prefer a game week 10 wild card. I think the swings are slightly better, but he was like, I've got to stop the rot. Ali didn't just win FPL out of nowhere, because so many that have won it in the past aren't necessarily over time. History tells us they haven't been elite top tier managers. They've just had one unbelievable season, some of them. Ali finished 215th the year before. Like, this guy, for me, is the best FPL manager in the world. And this is his wildcard, Dean. What's your initial reaction to it?
Oh God, it's hard for me to criticise Ali, isn't it?
You can't.
I don't like Almiron. I don't trust that Almiron is going to figure enough. I don't know. Like, I know it's difficult because Newcastle start to pick up injuries now, but with their scheduling as well, like Almiron would scare me a little bit. But obviously,
I think he's going to go. I think he's going to go Gordon instead, because Gordon's cheaper.
Yeah,
Gordon's quite a bit
that's
cheaper.
Where I would be going.
I think he'll settle on Gordon. He wants to cover the Newcastle attack. I get that, because they are looking good in attack, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And so I think Gordon is a better pick there. I think Neto is becoming one of the players of the season so far, especially from outside the big clubs. And obviously he will land himself at a big club by the end of the season at this rate. So it's a really good pick. Højlund is a fantastic pick. I like. It's going to obviously be a case of riding the storm at times, because there's going to be times when Man United are playing badly. Like, this is the pattern of Man United these days. When they go and score 2 late goals at Brentford, that is not the start of something special. That is getting out of jail. But United are going to have perhaps a few more moments like that desperation at the end of a game, and they're looking for a goal. And it might be that Højlund is the one that comes up with it. Like, he's one of the very few players in this Man United team that I actually like. So I think Højlund is a really good pick. And obviously, like, this has even got strength in depth on the bench, to be honest. So I think that those bench options are pretty decent. So yeah, across the board, I'd say that it's pretty good. You mentioned Tsimikas earlier on in the show. I think that's, if I was on a wild card, I would be putting Tsimikas in it at this stage, knowing that Robertson's not going to be playing and that there will be the opportunity for him to be getting points going forward. Yeah. And obviously there's the fact that Aston Villa, we like to ignore the fact sometimes on the show that they offer a lot of impetus in attack, and not having any of their attacking options is slightly risky on a wild card. I know we still don't know if we completely trust them, but when you're looking at their fixtures, especially coming up, and they've got Luton and Nottingham Forest coming up, yeah, I think I would be tempted. Not saying I definitely would, but I'd at least be having a look at Villa assets.
Yeah, I said to him, I get you've got Matty Cash, but why don't you have Watkins or Diaby? Because I think loads on game week 10 wild card will go for all 3 of them. Like, because you're right, the fixtures so are there. But he said, and I get it, he was like, Johnny, I'm 3 million. I need to do something different. Everyone's going to have Watkins. And Ali isn't scared of doing that. Like, that sometimes scares me a bit. I still always try and play my own game, but ownership amongst the engaged managers can influence you. With Ali, I don't think it ever does. So he's gone, yeah, like, I'd love Watkins, but look at Højlund. Like, he's got Sheffield United, he's got Fulham. I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves enough money in the bank to go Højlund to Watkins after a week if he needs to. And he can easily do that from downgrading an Almiron to a Gordon and a Share to a Burn, for example. And then he's got enough in the bank to go Højlund to Watkins. So he might do that. And I know this was his wildcard first draft. He's probably tinkered every day since. It will look a little bit different from this come Friday.
Yeah, okay, well, that's fair enough. But obviously, yeah, like you say, to have Højlund, particularly there's that week when Højlund's going to be playing Man City and Watkins is going to be playing Luton at home.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make much sense in a wild card to have gone down that path because you're missing, I'm going to say obvious points because it should be obvious points from what we've seen so far this season. So I'd say that's probably the biggest risk that I can see from this team. I saw Aston Villa Bosley saying, who's the top scoring attacker in the game again right now? And it is Ollie Watkins. Again, another reason I'm kicking myself. Until a couple of weeks ago, Ollie Watkins had basically nothing from the season. He got 23 points against Brighton. That's why he's the top scoring player in this game right now. And we mustn't forget that was genuinely a one-off game. He also got a 9-pointer against Chelsea the week before that. But all of the others have been 2 or 5 points, basically. So, yes, Ollie Watkins, good asset. But there were 23 points from one game.
Yeah. He's also not on pens. So, on paper, he's not as desirable as he was. At the end of last season, when he won that unbelievable run, he's not as desirable as he was back then. Because back then he was cheaper and he was on pens, and Aston Villa were playing equally as well. I still think Ali went against Watkins last year, same as me, and still managed to win FPL. So clearly he's not a player he loves. But yeah, he might end up with Watkins. The other big one is no Arsenal players, and someone in the chat did just mention Ali's plan with this is to go Son or Maddison to an Arsenal mid. So he could go to Saka from Son, or he could go to Martinelli from Maddison. And I like that booked in transfer for game week 10 because Arsenal don't have a good fixture away at Chelsea on 9. And I think you want triple Spurs for that Fulham home fixture. But it is dangerous, as always with wildcards, booking in that first transfer because sure, on paper, being able to go Maddison to Martinelli makes complete sense. But what if there's an injury elsewhere? Or what if you want to accumulate, you need to get Watkins? So I always try not to do the booking in. But at the same time, if you think the reward is there in that first week, I have been there where I've booked in a transfer. Probably 30% of the time I've wildcarded because I've gone, I just want a 1 week punt on that player. A little bit like when we dead end our teams, I always like to know when I'm going to wildcard. Sure, I'm flexible, but another reason why I prefer 10 over 9 is in game week 8, I wasn't ready to commit to a game week 9 wildcard. Therefore, I didn't have a 1 week punt on anyone. If I'm committing to a game week 10 wildcard, which I think I am, then I know this week's transfer could be a Højlund because I know I can wildcard him out, which is actually what I might do because I own Darwin. And I think we'll probably get a team leak for the Liverpool in that early kickoff. I don't think Darwin's going to start because journey time from South America, he doesn't usually start after that break. And Højlund as a 1 week punt against Sheffield United could be a whole world of joy. So yeah, I'm there for that. I've just texted Ali Dean. I've just texted him and said, we're reviewing your wild card. Please come and watch because I know he'll love it. So you might not be able to join live in the chat, but he'll come and watch at some point, I'm sure.
Oh, good. Let's see if he pops up. People playing in terms of Watkins saying to me, no, he's been consistent throughout the season. He's been returning assists. And I know that, obviously, but an assist isn't enough for me in an 8.2 million forward. I want someone that's scoring goals. And that's why I ended up jumping to Alvarez, because even though in between his games, there might be a 2-pointer, he was cropping up with a 9 and a 14 and a 7. And I just felt there might be more from Alvarez. And he's not far off him at the moment. But again, this is all looking very different at the moment because of one big Watkins haul. And over the course of a season, I'm not sure that there's going to be that much to tell between Julian Alvarez and Watkins. And I've even got a little bit of a hunch that Alvarez might do better across the course of a season.
Yeah, interesting. We haven't spoken about him much. Let's move on off Ali's wildcard because we've still got a little bit of time to show your... I hope you answer a few questions. But before we do, we saw the graphic from my channel earlier. As part of that show, I mentioned I did a wildcard draft. So I think we can just show that. And then perhaps that'll be the last thing we look at other than answering your questions. There's over 300 of you watching, which we didn't expect in the international break. We thought it was going to be quiet. And I think last week it was. But this week, you guys are back with a vengeance. So we will be streaming on Wednesday. We'll be streaming on Friday. Thank you all for liking and subscribing. I called it a 9-10 wildcard. If I wildcard in game week 10, I think my wildcard will look similar to this. I actually don't think I'll go with both Spurs midfielders in game week 10. Again, a bit like Ali, I would in 9, but wouldn't in 10. So this could, for example, have Saka instead of Maddison. Oh, well, I couldn't because he's more expensive. It could have Martinelli instead of Maddison or Saka instead of Son. But I quite like this. What I've done that Ali hasn't, and again, probably mine's a bit more template, but again, part of that is to do with Ali's rank. He said he thinks the Villa lads are great shouts, but he needs to do something a little bit different. So I've gone big on Villa from game week 10 because I think the fixtures are amazing.
Yeah.
Brighton is another team I love, not from 9 because of that one fixture, but from game week 10, Brighton have an unbelievable run of games. So I think Matoma's an obvious pick. And then I've got Watkins instead of Darwin. I've still gone budget on my goalkeepers. Worth noting, for defensive subs, you don't need to spend a ton of money to get players starting if they're just your subs. So I've got Taylor and Branthwaite, who are 3.9 and 4. Like, they're both 90-minute men at the moment. So I think that easy, good picks. The likes of Kabore and Bayer, who we were owning at the start of the season, not only have some of them gone up in price, but they're also not guaranteed to start each week. And I think Rahul says in the chat, what about Stupinan instead of Porro? Maybe, but again, even with Brighton's good fixtures, I'm not expecting clean sheets. This does have Diaby in, and Ivor says Diaby is a differential for Ali. He's only 12.6% owned. Yeah, maybe Ali will go in that direction. As I said, that wild card we've seen is definitely not his final wild card. He did say he's going to be tinkering lots. What's your take on, can Diaby help to cover some of those Watkins points, do you think, Dean? Because when he first started at Villa in the Premier League, I was really impressed with his early performances. He's definitely had a bit of an injury and has been carrying something. But recently, just from eye test, well, actually, his stats haven't been great either. But from eye test, he's not quite looked the Diaby I saw in August.
Yeah, I mean, I just have a bit unsure as to. I've talked about it many times on here about what version of Diaby we were actually going to get, and obviously he played so central and so close to Watkins in terms of getting in and amongst the goals. And I wasn't expecting that. I expected him to be wider and just looking to set things up more than anything. But he's caught me out for sure, and I am starting to wonder what I'll do when I go back to Aston Villa, because there's a big gap there in terms of what these two players are worth. But in terms of like the danger that they possess, it's not that different. And over the course of a season, I think Watkins will end up higher scoring. But because Diaby's a midfielder, you might be able to make some of that up. So if I was to pick one Villa player at the moment, I'd be tempted to go Diaby just to save the money and allow me to push the money into somebody else.
Yeah. I also like the Villa fixtures for clean sheets, and their defenders, their fullbacks, offer big upside. Like Matty Cash's underlying data is as good as anyone's. In terms of defenders for expected goal involvement, it's higher than Trippier, it's higher than Trent, it's higher than Chilwell. Obviously, he's played a lot of games, Cash, but Cash is right up there. And if Luca Dean wasn't under threat for a spot in the starting 11, because Moreno will be back soon, and we know Emery loves Moreno, I think Luca Dean and Cash are both good picks. It could be if Dean was nailed as he has been for the start of the season. Or you could even double up with the Villa defence. Like, I think Emery is underrated for his clean sheet potential. Like, he keeps clean sheets. And when you look at the fixtures for Villa from 10 for the next 4 or 5, I think there's 3 clean sheets in there.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Someone just mentioned, what about a 4.9 Chelsea pen taker? Obviously
Palmer.
referring to Cole Palmer. He does look good, and he is pretty good value. But Chelsea don't have a very welcoming set of games coming up, do they? And that does make it difficult, one, to judge how they're actually going to get on, but two, to know if Cole Palmer definitely stays in the team, especially now they've got players coming back from injury.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, he should be one of the first things on the team sheet. But Poch, even when he was playing, like, how many games has he started under Poch in the Prem? 2, like
2,
3,
maybe 3. Yeah.
So I think he went off with a knock, but I think he played for the under 21s the other day. So I'm sure he'll be fine. I wouldn't worry too much about the flag. But yeah, I don't know if the fixtures were slightly better. Yes, there is. I did just see on Twitter. I think it was All About FPL tweeted. There's a nice rotation between Palmer a 4.9 midfielder, and a Crystal Palace defender. In terms of they rotate really nicely. You could 1 week play the Crystal Palace defender and go
Oh, right.
for like a 4-4-2, and the next week play Palmer and play a 3-5-2.
Oh, nice.
So if you're looking to accommodate Palmer, always for me, a bit like someone like I don't know, a Neto, who I also really like, and a Souček, who I think could be a fun pick because he's playing a bit more advanced. When you look at those budget midfielders, I always try and look at my third attacker or my fourth defender to go, is there rotation there? So that's something we should always consider. And yeah, there always will be. Even for Evan Ferguson scored for Ireland against Gibraltar. Ferguson is always worth looking at. Problem with Brighton forwards, though, Dean. What do you reckon? Like, we can never pick them. It's Welbeck 1 week, Ferguson the next, João Pedro the next, and only 2 will ever start.
Yeah, Gibraltar.
Yeah.
I'm not. It doesn't matter. Like, Evan Ferguson's a good player in his own right. I'm not gonna. Even if he scores 4 goals tonight, I'm not gonna be letting that sway me on whether I pick him to play at the weekend against Man City. So, but yeah, like Evan Ferguson obviously is very good, but I don't know what to do with this Brighton team at the moment. Well, I can tell you, I'm doing nothing with them. That's what I'm doing at the moment. I haven't got any of them, but I still will always be veering towards Mitoma as my like go-to guy, just because I know he's going to play.
Yeah, I think we have to cover that Brighton attack from 10, and Mitoma is the only one I could safely say is going to start 4 of the next 5 games. Like, he might miss a game, but look what happened when De Zerbi tried resting Mitoma. Was it against Bournemouth the other day? I think at halftime they were losing, and Mitoma came on and got a brace. And like, he is the one from that attacking 5 spots. Yeah, it's a 4-2-3-1. There are 5 attacking slots, the front 2 and the 3 behind. Mitoma is the only one you can definitely guarantee, because there's so many other names. You know, on the right, it could be March, it could be Adringa, it could be Buonanotte. In the 10, it could be Lallana, it could be Pedro. It's attacking 4, isn't it? 4 spots. Yeah, Matoma's nailed.
Yeah. Worth noting that Pascal Gross in the Germany team at the weekend when they beat USA 3-1, and Pascal Gross started the game for Germany. So he was in there with some illustrious company in Musiala and Gundogan and stuff. So
well deserved.
Yeah, he did all right actually. So it's that's a good sign for
Did
him.
you see the Pulisic goal?
Pulisic, great strike, yeah, a great strike from Pulisic, but a disappointing night for America generally. But Pulisic came out for it very well. America do play again; they play Ghana tomorrow night, so we'll see how Pulisic can take that form back into AC Milan. But yeah, never sure with Pulisic if it's just a one-off or if he's got any consistency about him. Glad we don't have to have that game in FPL with him anymore, because it didn't quite work out, did it? Right, we've got a couple of quick minutes left, mate. What should we go?
A couple of quick fire
ones.
Yeah, I think so. Hit us with some questions, guys. Thank you so much for your support tonight. If you're just joining, you might want to go back and watch the last hour. It's been an awesome stream. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Mark says Pulisic has been in his fantasy Serie A team, and he has been a good fantasy asset this season. Thoughts on Jack Harrison at Everton? Oh, I mean, he's a Sean Dyche wide man. Like, there's no doubt about that.
Yep.
I just don't know. I trust the Everton attack. The underlying numbers are good, but the end product still isn't there. And players like Calvert-Lewin, if he was fit every week, yeah, you might want one of the providers, but I don't think I'd be going there.
Rahul, would you advise going without Haaland?
Ooh. No.
I can't ever advise that.
I know some are, like some big names, but no,
Why?
I can't. Yeah, just because they can spread that funds, and so expensive.
It just seems stupid to me. It just seems stupid. All right, we got a super chat in, mate. After saying we didn't want any, we've got one. Maybe Linus wasn't here at the start of the show, but no, thank you so much, mate. We really appreciate it, and of course, we're going to give you a big shout out for this one. Hey, G and Dean, who is a priority buy for game week 10 if you could only buy one, Mitoma or Saka, if they are both fit, of course? What's your expertise, mate?
Yeah, Linus, it's a great question. Like, if I wildcard game week 10. I don't know if I'll have Saka. I'll have an Arsenal attacker and Mitoma, but I would say out the 2, if you've got the choice, Saka, will absolutely be playing if he's fit. Mitoma, even when he's fit, he will miss. I think he'll play 4 of the next 5 Premier League games. There'll be one he misses. So you would expect that to be one of the easier games we saw against Bournemouth, for example, when he was rested. And I do wonder, because game week 10 for Brighton on paper is such a good fixture, isn't it? Like Fulham at home is a good. I mean, they do have Sheffield United at home in 12, so maybe that's the one.
Yeah.
But I think I'd go Arsenal. I think the ceiling with the Arsenal players at the moment, they've just beaten Man City. Many are saying that, this is their chance, this is their time. And Sheffield United, see how they look against Man United. But if Sheffield United look bad against Man United, then wow, they're going to struggle at Arsenal away. If they look bad against United at home, they're really going to struggle against Arsenal away.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. Thanks again, Linus. Really appreciate that, mate. Thanks for the super chat. Very, very kind of you. Claire did send in a good question, which I just want to quickly find. Do you think Alvarez will be benched in game week 9 due to travelling back from South America? It's a bit worrying. Yeah? Like, I've got Alvarez. It is a bit of a concern, but look, even if he doesn't start, he'll play. I don't mind that because Brighton do concede, so I think I'm okay with it.
It's not the early kickoff. I know they play at 3 p.m, but those few hours can make a difference. And I don't think Pep has a history of doing it quite like Klopp does it. Also, without De Bruyne, Alvarez is so needed, isn't he? So needed in that team. So I think there's a very good chance he still starts, but.
Yeah, it's funny. On City's official website the other day, I saw it go out that they actually did an article on Alvarez's stock in Fantasy Premier League and how good an asset he is, like on their own official website, like hyping him up and talking about, last month how he was a starter in all the games and how his points return and what a good player he was, and look forward to him coming back after the break. So, yeah, I think I'm going to probably keep him.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh, Gucci. Yes, Gucci. One of my squad members who's on my WhatsApp group with Ali. So I text when I text Ali to say we're doing your wildcard team, I put it on our WhatsApp group. So Gucci would have seen that and jumped on. So
wicked.
Thanks for joining, Gucci. Am I wasting 1.4 on Pope? I don't know. I mean, look, Pope's great pick in his own right. He keeps clean sheets. He'll get some save points. He's not bad in the bonus, but he's not good in the bonus necessarily. But you can access that Newcastle defence for what, 4.5 million through Dan Burn, and you got to spend a whole load of money to get Pope 5.5 this season. Like, sure, we spend extra on Trippier because we know we get a ton of extras. We know we get the assists and we know we get bonus points. I don't know if Pope. I simply think Pope is 0.5 too expensive this season. He should be a 5 million keeper. He's a 5.5 million keeper. Dan Burn's 4.6. Botman's 4.7. I think if I'm going Newcastle defence and I'm not spending much money, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, fair enough. Adam, question for Dean. Fulham Twitter seems to be turning on Raul Jimenez. Surely still a better option than Vinicius. Do you know what, Adam? I don't agree. I mean, I think like I've stuck by Jimenez and I'm not turning on him like some people are, but he is just not a threat, and it's got to the point where it is a bit of an issue now. And Vinicius, while I don't particularly rate him as an all-round footballer, he's got something about him that just works a little bit better for me than Raul Jimenez at the moment. And now Jimenez, it's probably a mental state, but it's also a reason that Wolves let Jimenez go, right? Like, Jimenez was a hero at that club. Like, he'd become an icon, and things obviously changed after his injury. And then he struggled to get back to the old version of himself. And they were like, okay, let him go. You hope that new environment will give him a new lease of life. It hasn't happened at Fulham. Hasn't got a league goal yet. And Vinicius, he's just awkward. He's a little bit like Darwin Núñez in that sense. Like, he's not as good as Darwin Núñez, but like, he's a nuisance, and he gets in there and he can stick his head in places and he can fumble around in the box and find an opportunity that he might stick away. And Jimenez just hasn't managed to do that yet. So to be honest, I can't really believe I'm even saying this myself, but I'd probably start Carlos Vinicius against Tottenham.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. You said a couple of days or last week, he's almost like a mini Mitro. He's trained with Mitro. He knows
like a replica, yeah, like a knockoff version.
Yeah, not quite as good, clearly.
He's not quite him, but he does the same stuff.
The final one from Eddie. Would you start this week Luis Diaz or Gabriel? Well, look, Gabriel, I think when we're coming back from South America, Centre backs are usually fine. It's the attacking players, managers usually a little bit more precious about in terms of energy in the legs. I think Gabriel is a good pick this week. Like Luis Diaz has the upside, and I always chase the upside. Like, will Chelsea score against Arsenal? I don't know, but Gabriel's best case scenario is 6 points. Even if Luis Diaz is a sub, he could still come on and get a goal or something bigger against Everton. So I'd probably back the attacking player, but I don't love either this week, Eddie. Like, I don't love those two options for your starting 11. But if you've got no choice, I think I'd risk it and go and Luis Diaz. But we'll get a Liverpool team leak. So why don't we react to that? If you see Luis Diaz is benched, then maybe you go Gabriel. But guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been awesome. Wish me luck. I'm going to England, Italy tomorrow.
Are you? Yeah, of course you are. Yeah. Well, get some rest tonight, mate. And you've got a lot of walking to do tomorrow, and then you've got a big game. So you really need to at least how much sleep do you? Well, you don't get any sleep at home, do you? Because you got a little girl.
It's
So
quite nice, actually, mate. Yeah, being away, being away. I'm going down now, mate. As part of our walking group, we've got a physio who's just one of the guys' dads who's used to be a physio in the Navy. And he's just texted to say he's got his medical room open from 7 till 9 tonight. So I've got 55 minutes to get down there and get some, I don't know what I need in my toe, but something. So yeah, I'm going to run down there now. But
good luck, mate.
If anyone's interested, I'll be keeping you updated on my walking progress on my Instagram. So yeah, check me out on Insta.
No, good luck, Sean, mate.
Thank you, mate. And yeah, we'll be back on Wednesday around lunchtime. I think probably 1 o'clock we usually do. So I'll see you then. Dean and I'll be back on Friday. We've got the Chaser team on Friday. All sorts of polls flying around, no doubt. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe on the way out, and we'll see you very soon.